Hey there, Ranger Ken, and welcome to another Power Rangers off-season review. Today we are in for a treat as we're going to be talking about the best bad guys. That's right, a show about superheroes is nothing without some villains for them to fight. Their big, dynamic personalities often outshine the Rangers, who are usually somewhat flat 2D goody-goods. Some are destroyed, some are redeemed, but all of them have a special place in our heart. So let's take a look at the top 10 Power Rangers villains. Number 10, Emperor GRUMM, Power Rangers S.D.D. Where GRUMM excels is fear. A bony, scary, monstrous-looking villain. The very first time we see him, he destroys a planet. There's nothing about him that's really personable or relatable at all. He just screams, "Evil ruler!" Where GRUMM suffers is a lack of depth. His lack of relatability is both a positive and a negative, and for much of the season, it's just really hard to tell what he actually wants. He makes multiple trips down to Earth that seem to have no real purpose, and it's not until the end of the year that we actually learn what his motivation is. And it turns out, spoiler warning, that he's only serving another being called Omni and building his Megazord/weapon called the Magnificence. However, his fearsome appearance and gruff personality were enough to snag him number 10 on our list. Number 9, Dai-Shi, Power Rangers Jungle Fury. Dai-Shi makes the list mainly for the uniqueness of his story. He's the only villain to directly possess a human, taking Paishwa student Jared as his vessel. This makes him somewhat difficult to read. On the outside, we see a human, a rather mean-looking villain, true, but it's clear that there's an evil entity on the inside, and it gives the two of them a very Jekyll and Hyde relationship. And as time went on, Jared clearly started winning out as Dai-Shi was less and less controlling him and more influencing him. Jared continued to grow in strength and remorse and eventually gained the power to expel Dai-Shi, as well as winning the heart of his henchwoman Camille, who had been devoted to Dai-Shi. My main issue with Jared/Dai-Shi is that they didn't do much. They engaged the Rangers a few times, they had some good plans, but they mainly focused on getting stronger just for strength's sake. And that often made the lead villain situation confusing, as they would awaken another general just to have that general take over. But seeing evil in the face of a human puts Dai-Shi at number 9. Number 8, LOTHOR, Power Rangers Ninja Storm. I can almost guarantee you that somebody, at least one person, will dislike one of my choices for bottom 10 villains next week and point right at this spot at LOTHOR as the spot that they could have taken. And yes, I'm also well aware of Linkara's dislike of the character, but as Linkara says, opinions are subjective. Whereas he hated LOTHOR's comedy, I actually liked it. I just think it makes him a rather unique character, a villain who's able to actually crack jokes and take a little joy in what he's doing. Now, I will agree with Linkara that it does create a small disconnect in his backstory, seen in the Samurai's journey, with the character that we end up getting in the main show. Also, right at the end, he becomes very serious and dark, becoming the villain that I think a lot of people wanted him to be. So, while I do get why some people dislike LOTHOR, his ability to make them laugh lands him on the list at number 8. Number 7, Master Org, Power Rangers Wild Force. While I know some people will say that Master Org predated Dai-Shi and the whole villain possessing a human thing, I don't see it that way. The reason I don't is that Dai-Shi had an established character seen both before and after possessing Jared. Wild Force never really gives us an idea of what Master Org was before Victor Adler. We see him once in a flashback, and he basically looks exactly the same. What I love about Master Org are his motivations. Well, not Master Org's motivations. Master Org wanted the same thing that all Orgs did, destruction and pollution. But Victor Adler's motives were deeply personal and fascinating. He fell in love with Cole's mother, who he was working with alongside another male scientist. They both fell in love with her, and the other scientist beat him to the punch in proposing to her. He grew very dark and bitter after this, feeling that he'd lost his chances at love and a family. It also didn't help that he was a lot less personable or relatable than the other scientist, Cole's father. Reporters at press conferences would ask him to speak instead of Dr. Adler, even when it was about Dr. Adler's work. This took him from a young, eager scientist into a dark, bitter individual. So, when he found the seeds of Master Org, he took his chance at power and consumed them, becoming Master Org himself. At least, eventually? That lack of clarity is really Master Org's downside. For most of the season, he seems to be pretending to be Master Org. He wears a fake horn, and Toxica keeps saying that he smells like a human. But he'd eaten the seeds. Why wasn't he actually Master Org? And then he basically gets killed, but then revives as Master Org? Other than that, he suffered from that really same lack of an end game. What did he want? What was his purpose? Destruction? Why? Pollution? For what purpose? Also, he may have been the master of the orgs, but he was not a good king for them. For example, he destroyed many of the entombed orgs in the Nexus in a jealous rage. So honestly, Master Org may not have even made the list. But Victor Adler drags him all the way up to number 7. Number 6, TRAKEENA, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. TRAKEENA is a rarity for Power Rangers, a female humanoid villain that does not get redeemed at the end. She's also one of the deepest villains the show has. She has emotions, motives, worries. For example, she doesn't want to go into the cocoon that her father Scorpius prepared for her because she's vain and worried about losing her humanoid qualities and becoming more insectoid. She aches to prove herself and goes away to train and become stronger. That, of course, leads to the now famous scene between her and her dying father, displaying some of the best emotional depth this show has ever given us for villains. TRAKEENA was always strong and got even stronger, had motivations of both conquest and revenge, and ruled with an iron fist. Female villains, strong female villains, are always awesome to see, and TRAKEENA was one of the best. Where TRAKEENA falls a bit short is in her death after Scorpius' death. It's never made really clear why she wanted to destroy or take over Terra Venture, besides revenge against the Rangers, I guess? It was kind of reflective of the lack of direction at the end of Lost Galaxy. They threw in this really odd character change, having her merge with one of her generals, Deviat, inside the cocoon, which changed her personality. And then she re-enters the cocoon and sheds her humanoid qualities, becoming fully insectoid and basically getting rid of the human that we'd gotten to know. But all in all, TRAKEENA is one bad bug, sitting at number 6 on our list. Number 5, RANSIK, Power Rangers Time Force. As we move into the top 5, we're going to get into some villains that a lot of people list as their number 1. RANSIK is one of the most beloved villains on Power Rangers, owed somewhat, if not a lot, due to the acting of Vernon Wells, one of a number of experienced actors on Time Force. RANSIK has a very complex backstory. He was created from the runoff of labs that were creating perfect DNA, making babies that had no deformities. This makes him a lot like the Skin of Evil from Star Trek The Next Generation. He's a creature that was literally formed from our own faults. RANSIK would be somewhere in the top 10 just for being the first villain to defeat a Power Ranger. And by defeat, I mean thoroughly, completely. Alex, the Red Time Force Ranger from the year 3000, was basically dead when he was defeated by RANSIK in their second fight. No villain had ever defeated a Ranger so completely. RANSIK was also motivated by that complex backstory, seeing himself as something of a champion of mutant kind after being rejected by humanity. Sure, his overall goal was still conquest, but it can be argued that he didn't always want to take over the world, instead being twisted by a society that continued to reject him as it moved into physical perfection. What keeps RANSIK in the middle of the best villains pack is what I just implied above. He sees himself as a champion of mutant kind, but never does anything to actually make their lives better. He has an entire prison full of convicted criminal mutants. Does he release them, give them a second chance at a time where they might, though not likely, be more accepted? No, he releases them one at a time and uses them as his lackeys to destroy the Power Rangers. And, as seen in Frax's backstory, he was shown great kindness by a human and totally shunned him, stealing the serum that he was being given anyway and destroying his lab, nearly killing him. Now, you could argue that at this point RANSIK was too far gone, having already given up on humanity despite whatever happened, but it does seem to make his character a bit inconsistent. But what really has me split on RANSIK is his relationship with his daughter. His love for her ranges from comic relief moments, like helping Lucas when she had a crush on him, to the more serious. It did give us some great moments, like when he shunned her for saying that not all humans are bad, showing how much that must have really hurt him. But to me, it also took something away from Time Force's finale. She basically became a Deus Ex Machina, helping to solve the unsolvable, invincible problem of RANSIK. But hey, his actor was in Mad Max 2. RANSIK starts off the top 5. Number 4, Empress Rita, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Oh, no, he didn't. Rita is only number 4? Yes, I know a lot of you have Rita no worse than 2 on your list. This gives me a really good chance to explain my system, how I do this. I don't factor in nostalgia, the strength of the seasons, etc. I take the villains on a list and do a little head-to-head in my head. And Rita lost that battle 3 times. Rita was the classic Wicked Witch, and she was great for it. Her use of magic spells and evil trinkets always made her feel very mysterious and dark. She controlled an evil Power Ranger for a long time, and came really close to wiping out the Rangers all by herself. She just always was so mysterious and dark and even a little bit scary. But I've got 2 issues with Rita. The first is that her plans started to get really petty, especially later on. Ruin a Ranger's day, make them really tired, keep them from getting this or that. Part of it was probably how popular MMPR got and how many episodes it demanded, but her plans just got really boring and repetitive and tired after a while. The other issue is that they seem to try to balance that mysterious darkness by making her a bit more silly at times. Constant complaining about having a headache, physical overacting, from Zyuranger, yes, I know, just really made her feel like less of a threat and more silly. You'd start out an episode shuddering at her, and you'd be laughing at her by the end. It is worth noting that Rita is the only villain to be fully redeemed years after the fact. While she was turned to good by the Zordon wave along with Lord Zedd and Divatox, she was the only one of the 3 to use her powers after that. She became the Mystic Mother of all good magic and assisted the Mystic Force Power Rangers. The first, but not the best, Rita lands at number 4. Number 3, Astronema, Power Rangers in Space. Everything I loved about TRAKEENA, Astronema was even more. Cold, calculating, though passionate, especially when her plans failed. And she had this incredible depth to her. As time went on, it became clear that she wasn't evil just because evil, but because she'd been raised to be evil. Astronema was Corone, the sister of the Red Ranger Andros. She was kidnapped from her planet of KO-35 and raised by Ecliptor, an evil general. The two have a great father-daughter relationship that actually transcends good and evil. Ecliptor is a wonderful father to her, despite raising her to serve the United Alliance of Evil. It gives her a fantastic arc that starts with her being your classic evil general and nearly leads her to becoming a Power Ranger. By the way, according to her uniform and her communicator, if she had been given a morpher, she would have been the Purple Space Ranger. But joining the Rangers and turning on Dark Spectre leads him to put a plan into place that leads to her being retaken and basically Borgified. But even then, she maintains depth, just a different kind of depth, putting her own plan into place that leads Dark Spectre to be weakened nearly to the point of death. And the way she did that was the most genius plan in the show's history. An evil team of Power Rangers called the Psycho Rangers that were equal and above matches to their Ranger counterparts. And were directly tied into Dark Spectre's life force. She was weakening all of her enemies at once. On the downside, she rarely got involved with battle herself, and she made some really odd choices. She kind of fell for Zane, the Silver Ranger, even setting up a date with him. I don't blame a girl for having feelings, but you'd think she'd be a little more loyal to the cause and not so quick to shack up with the enemy. Also, she recruited the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the live-action Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation to try to destroy the Rangers. which might just be the worst plan in the show's history. Astronema is, quite simply, the best female villain this show has ever had, which lands her at number 3. Alright kids, let's take a quick recap look at the list so far before heading into the final 2. I hope he doesn't grumble, but SPD's villain was number 10. Daishi is Japanese for Big Lion. It's top 10 villains list language for number 9. Lothor was not a Lothario, at least I don't think so, and is great at number 8. He may be Master of the Orgs, but not Master of this list. Master Org is number 7. Don't bug me about this, but TRAKEENA lands at number 6. RANSIK got mad when he read in the history books that he was only number 5. Rita's magic wand made her position grow to number 4. Don't send the turtles after me, Astronema, but you're just number 3. Now at this point, most of you probably have figured out who's left. Spoilers, no one from Operation Overdrive is anywhere near the top of this list. Yes, according to me, the top 2 Power Rangers villains are Lord Zedd and MESOGOG. But in which order? Now, revealing who's number 2 is going to automatically reveal who's number 1. So, I hope you guys don't fall off your chair when I say this. Number 2, Lord Zedd, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Seriously, are you guys okay? Do you need some smelling salts? Yes, Lord Zedd is an awesome villain. He has perhaps the best look for a Power Rangers villain. Exposed red muscles, shiny silver steel, a pulsing brain, and a starkly identifying staff. He shows up and immediately kicks Rita to the curb for failure, and he also introduces his own massive Zord, Serpentera, which ups the stakes. And as Linkara pointed out, his plans were often very personal to the Rangers, but in a good way. Unlike Rita's pettiness and her plans impacting the Rangers, Lord Zedd would often use mind control or some object dear to the Rangers to give the fight a personal stake, making the Rangers doubt themselves about whether they should fight. Lord Zedd was really handicapped by meddling parents who said he was too scary for their children. He's a villain, he's supposed to be scary. But they married him off to Rita Repulsa to try to make him more of a put-upon, henpecked husband. While the two of them were more effective as a unit, the marriage made him less gruff and really took away some of that scary quality that made him so dark and menacing. Number 1. MESOGOG, Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Which leads us neatly into MESOGOG, who started out evil and menacing and stayed that way. He had a literal Jekyll and Hyde relationship with Anton Mercer, father of the White Ranger Trent. But when he was MESOGOG, oh man, a literal walking dinosaur who was not just mean and evil and menacing, but also dangerously intelligent. He would create his monsters by combining DNA from 3 different items and made them grow with a hydro regenerator, all very advanced technology that he invented. His motives are also the best in the show. Not just conquest, not conquest motivated by revenge. He believes fundamentally in the superiority of dinosaur DNA, and his plan from the first episode is to return Earth to the age of the dinosaurs. Tommy even asks him in an episode, why can't you just want to rule the Earth like all the other sickos? While the line is funny, it does also somewhat reflect that a villain having a specific motivation like that can make him tougher to defeat than most of the other villains on the show. Also, this is going to sound a little weird, but follow me here. He came really close to corrupting the greatest Power Ranger ever. Doesn't it seem weird to anyone else that Tommy just all of a sudden started developing dinosaur-themed technology that screamed supervillain? It makes a lot of sense to me to think that Anton Mercer brought Tommy in, took him under his wing, trained him, and then used him to create things like the Tyrannodrones and the Biozords. Tommy's escape probably came once he realized what he was doing and put a stop to it. The reason I have MESOGOG at number 1 is because it's really, really hard for me to think of anything that I don't like about him. I guess you can level the same didn't get into the battle accusation at him as you do the other villains, but since he's more of a calculating villain, I don't mind it as much. Yeah, I've got nothing. Great look, great voice, Great plan, just number 1, the best. So yep, that's my list of top 10 Power Rangers villains. If you didn't hear your name, villains, sadly you're going to be somewhere on the list next week of my bottom 10 Power Rangers villains. I have got a great idea for next week, speaking of that video. If I can get at least 10 votes, I want to do a Viewer's Choice Award for Best Villain and Worst Villain. Leave me a comment right down below and let me know your favorite villain and least favorite villain. To help you out, the villains that I haven't named yet are Venjix, Power Rangers RPM. The Master, aka Optimus, Power Rangers Mystic Force. The Villains Collective, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Prince Vicar, Power Rangers Super Mega Force. Admiral Malcor, Power Rangers Mega Force. Master Xandred, Power Rangers Samurai and Super Samurai. Master Vile, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. King Mondo, Power Rangers Zeo. Queen Banshira, Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Divatox, Power Rangers Turbo. Alright, so go ahead and get commenting with those votes. And if I get the required 10 votes, I will pick one lucky person and shout out your YouTube channel, your website, or something else you want me to give a shout out to in the next video. So in your comment vote below, just point out what you'd like me to shout out, and good luck! Finally, a scheduling note. I have posted this to the YouTube channel's discussion board, but honestly, I'm not sure how many of you guys are actually notified when something goes up there. I've decided to go ahead and do something that I kind of thought that was going to be necessary, and that is cancel 1 week of Power Rangers off-season reviews. That basically allows me to wipe out that first week, which I completely missed, and just push everything a week back. All the videos on the schedule get pushed back 1 week. If Dino Charge does debut on Valentine's Day, I am going to have to cancel 1 video. The leader in the clubhouse right now is What Makes a Good Power Rangers, because I think that video would basically turn into a list of what shows like Super Mega Force and Operation Overdrive did wrong, and I'm actually already making a video comparing the two of them, the battle for the Corona Ugg Stinka, so it would be a bit redundant. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below, subscribe if you're new here, and leave some comments, especially those votes that I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching. Come back next week for another Power Rangers off-season reviews, and until then, may the power protect you. Pop. Whoa, what? Whoa. Hey, whoa, 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 somebody pull the trigger!